Hi there. In this video, I'm going to talk about the business processes or the business cycles. And mainly we have 5 cycles to talk about here: the revenue, expenditure, production, financing, and human resource. And mainly we talk about the data we needed for the accounting information system and the documents we needed. So all of these cycles, they usually send their data to the general ledger. And from the general ledger, we create the financial statements, which can be used by internal and external users. So let us take the first one, which is the the revenue cycle. In the revenue cycle, we get the goods from the production department, where we sell it for cash and send the fund to the financing department. And then we send the data to the general ledger. So this can tell you here that there is some data and documents involved in this cycle. The data mainly we take it from 2 different journals. The first one is the sales journal, and the second one is the cash receipt journal. From those journals, we can find all the information we needed for the revenue cycle. But how about the documents involved? As you can see here, in the revenue cycle, we see a lot of documents. First, we start the revenue cycle by inquiries that might come from the customer. When we reply to the inquiries, then the customer will send his order. And once we supply his order, then he will make the payment. And then we take the cash received from the customer, deposit it in the bank, make a journal entry for it, give commission to the human resource person or the salesman, and finally remove it from our inventory. So here we have a lot of documents that we will discuss it in detail in this chapter, in this course. So right now you need to be aware that in the revenue cycle, there is some data and some information are required. How about the expenditure cycle? In the expenditure cycle, we get the financing from the financing cycle, which already has been generated by the revenue cycle, to buy raw material and send it to production and put the data in the general ledger. So what are the information or the data we needed in this cycle and the documents? The information we needed here comes from purchase journal and cash payment journal. And from here, we can gauge all the information we needed for the expenditure cycle. But how about the documents? The documents, we find it here in this diagram, where we can mainly get the need from a revenue cycle or inventory department or various department or production department. They send the orders usually to the procurement department, which can send it to the vendors, receive it with the invoice and make the payment. And in return, we send all the orders to each one of the relevant departments and keep a record in the general ledger. So as we did in the revenue cycle, we do it in the expenditure cycle, where we have some data, comes from the journal and documents. If we move to the next one, which is the production cycle, we talk about here the production of goods or services by using raw material from the expenditure cycle, labor from human resource department, and we send the completed goods to the revenue cycle and the data to the general ledger. For that reason, we use one main account, which you might have seen it in other accounting courses, which we call it work in process. Work in process, as you can see on the left side, has material, labor, factory overhead, which comes from different cycles. And then once we produce it, we move it to the right side to be cost of goods manufactured. How about the documents we needed in the production cycle? We can get it mainly from the revenue cycle, from expenditure cycle, human resource, and management. So in production, we need raw material, which comes from revenue cycle. Labor comes from human resource. We produce it and send it to revenue cycle, cost of goods manufactured, and we give the reports to the management and to the general ledger. So Remember, we have different cycles, and each one of them needs to get a specific data and a specific document. The next one is the financing cycle. And you can say that the financing cycle is the link, the joint between the revenue cycle and the expenditure cycle. Because we get the cash from revenue and we spend it on the expenditure cycle. And then in addition, we pay salaries to the human resource, the payroll, and finally we send the data to the general ledger. For the financing cycle, since we talk about funds in and funds out, we need to focus on cash receipt and cash payment. And this is mainly what gives information to the financing cycle. How about the human resource cycle? The human resource cycle recruit, train, and retain all the employees, where we send the labor mainly to the production, and then we get their salaries from financing cycle, and we move the data to the general ledger. For the number of documents we use it in the payroll cycle, first we use the payroll account, which is mainly comes from the HR department, and we get the timesheet from various departments. We start paying the paychecks, which goes to the bank, and the payroll report, which goes to each employee to show the details or the breakdown of his payment. And then we pay at the end of each period the insurance and the taxes. So remember, in business, we have 5 key cycles. And in our course, we are going to discuss each one of those cycles in more details. And what we need to focus on is the information and the documents. So the accounting information system plays a big role in the business, and there are some components into this system. First and most important component is people, because people might make error or fraud, and they use the system to collect, process, and store the data, which could be related to activities or processes or the organization itself. And we use, for that reason, different softwares like the ones we use it in our course, like Power BI or Tableau. And we use different computer devices to work on the data. And finally, we need to put the framework to safeguard our data from any negligence and any error. And the reason from that, we need to achieve 3 different functions by collecting and storing the data, transforming the data into information, and ensure the reliability of that information through the safeguard of the assets and the data. Now we say, what is the value added by a good accounting information system? First of all, it improves the quality and reduce the costs, because using the information online will help us to produce reports on a timely manner, which can enhance our efficiency and share the knowledge among the employees and enhance the efficiency of the supply chain. And you might wonder, what is the difference between supply chain and value chain? Well, supply chain is the big umbrella that includes value chain along with other stakeholders like customers, suppliers, distributors, and so on. So the supply chain, you could say, it's the extended system that includes the value chain along with other stakeholders. So what is the meaning of value chain? Value chain is the set of primary and support activities that we do it inside the company to reach our goal. So what are the primary activities we do it in the value chain? First, we receive the material, then we produce it in operations, then we sell it through the outbound logistics, make some advertising, and finally do after-sales services. To do these primary activities, we need some support activities, such as infrastructure like assets, people, technology like computer devices, and finally purchasing department. So remember, purchasing is not a primary activity, but support activity. So remember, the primary activity produce, market, and deliver the products and provide after-sales services, but the support activity works on the backside to support the primary activity and do the business. I hope you find this presentation useful, and please make sure to read it before you do either the assignment or the quiz. Wish you a nice day and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.